welcome and thank you for tuning in. Great to have you with us today. A quick reminder as we get started to, if you have questions for the speakers, please post those in our chat box and we'll be glad to do our best to try and get to those as the speakers move throughout the program today. You know, summer's off to a great start and I hope you're enjoying yours. I can't let the moment pass this morning without a big shout out to all of those who are busy welcoming our guests from around the country and around the world. You know, thinking about it, I'm sure most of us today tuning into Power Hour were at one time a visitor before we were fortunate enough to call this amazing low country home. A quick fun fact for you regarding tourism, about it factors into about $10 billion to the economic impact in South Carolina, and about 20% of that is coming from Hilton Head Island, Bluffton, and the Low Country. Our business community is dealing with a similar challenge faced around the country that impacts our residents' quality of life, and that's workforce availability and workforce housing. Your chamber has launched a new Low Country Jobs Now website, which is customized to area employers. It also addresses the powerful Encore workforce, and we're so fortunate to have such a valuable group of retirees and active individuals who want to contribute and are looking for to fill some of those positions. Also, we're focused on apprenticeships programs where connect businesses that are looking for those who want to help build the careers of those who are just getting started. So it's free for our members to post their jobs as well as for the job seekers. So we ask you to take a quick look at that if you're interested. And then as we get ready to transition here, we know that workforce just continues to be a hot topic, not only locally, but here, not only around the country, but here as well. And we're very fortunate to have with us today is Hilton Head Island's new Chief Workforce Housing Officer, and that's Mr. Quincy White. Quincy comes to us following a stint addressing housing initiatives along the Virginia Peninsula. He's tasked with shaping housing policies for the island and overseeing the town of Hilton Head Island's workforce housing framework. So here to talk about the town's North Point initiative, as well as much more, let's welcome Quincy White. Quincy, good morning. We're glad to have you with us, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure to be here and be a part of you all's Power Hour. It's an opportunity to collaborate with fellow professionals, so thank you. I do have a brief presentation just to give you an overview of the housing framework, as well as initiatives that we have prioritized here on the island. So I'm going to share my screen quickly. And hopefully everyone's able to see the presentation okay. Okay, so again, so the workforce housing framework is the foundation in regards to all the different housing initiatives that we have here on the island. As part of that, you know, we like to clearly define what workforce housing is. So these are folks that are, you know, they make far too much for any type of housing subsidy, but they're also priced out of the market in regards to rental prices and purchasing housing. So these folks, you know, there's different terms for them, the missing middle, you know, essential workforce. And you can see the graph at the bottom there that kind of diagrams the population that we're focusing on. So these are individuals that are making 80 plus AMI within our region, particularly here on the island. And again, this goes into further detail in regards to finding home, the housing framework in which all of our housing initiatives are built from. And a part of the housing framework are 4 core pillars: community, planning, management, and revenue. And these 4 pillars, again, guide all the different housing initiatives that we implement here on the island. So the community pillar is the goal. The goal of this pillar is to engage, collaborate, and inform the community of the housing challenges and to identify community-led housing programs and solutions. And we're the next part of the presentation, we're going to discuss some of the different initiatives that fall within each one of these buckets. So planning, the goal of this pillar is to create a social, political, and economic environment that stimulates workforce housing through planning, policymaking, and programming. Of course, revenue, finding a way to sustain these workforce housing programs here on the island looking at alternate revenue streams to further sustain and ensure that these programs are longstanding. And of course, management. The goal of this pillar is to establish a management program and policies to advance workforce housing opportunities. This includes adding dedicated town staff for planning and coordination and exploring the creation of professionally managed housing organization. And again, these are the key initiatives that we are focused on this calendar year to implement here on the island. So executing the North Point Public-Private Partnership Agreement. Of course, we are still in the development agreement negotiation process, so we can't speak too much about that publicly, but we are really excited about this program. 150 to 170 units of workforce housing here on the island. Supporting the Housing Action Committee endorsed 2024 work plan. Again, this is that work plan. So, the Housing Action Committee serves as a committee to, advise, provide resources to the housing team here, particularly myself, in regards to creating some of these programs to benefit our workforce here on the island. Implementing the Low Country Habitat for Humanity MOU. Again, a part of the MOU was the town providing $500,000 to support Habitat for Humanity to purchase property on the island to build affordable housing. Implement and support CCDC's Memorandum of Understanding. Of course, for those that may not know, CCDC has a scattered site approach in regards to purchasing units throughout the island, throughout the region, to be used as workforce housing. So we're really excited about that public-private partnership and to further support CCDC. Implement our home safety and repair and lateral sewer connection programs. Through these programs, we've been able to work with households that are lower income to make crucial repairs to their homes, as well as connecting them to our sewer system. So that program has been super successful, and we want to continue implementing that program. Of course, implementing Finding Home. There's other brackets that fall under that, which includes developing and adopting a displacement mitigation support plan. So with redevelopment comes displacement, unfortunately, but we are trying to develop a community network of partners to support any resident that goes through a displacement event. Create a workforce housing metrics dashboard. So this kind of feeds into our communications plan. We want to be able to have a user-friendly interface that communicates some of our successes, as well as some of the trends in regards to workforce housing here on the island. And again, our communications plan. In my travels, I was recently at a housing conference in Texas, and I was speaking to a colleague, and it's clear that many communities have a hard time communicating what is workforce housing, what is attainable housing, what is affordable housing. And of course, with our communications plan, we want to ensure that we're communicating exactly what is workforce housing here on the island, what it is, what it isn't, and what is some of the work that we're trying to do, and what are some of our successes. And of course, last but not least, the overhaul of our LMO to include a housing incentives chapter. Most recently, I believe it was in the Post and Courier, it was discussing how our density bonus did not bring in as many developers to build more workforce housing here on the island. And as a part of that, we're looking to be creative in regards to some of the incentives that we have to entice developers to build more and work more with the island in regards to building more workforce housing. So that's the end of the presentation. I wanted to share briefly some of the work that we're trying to do right now. And again, we're really excited in regards to some of the progress that we've made. I've been here for about 6 months now. I do come from Virginia. I've worked for, the last 15 years in regards to homeless services, connected the unhoused with housing and other resources to sustain their growth and their success in their community. And I'm hoping to bring some of that same enthusiasm here on the island. We've seen some wins recently in regards to adopting our housing impact analysis, which allows for an allocation of tax dollars to support workforce housing development. Our partnership with the Beaufort Jasper Housing Trust, really excited about that as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the presentation. A lot of work ahead, but we're eager to get to it.
Quincy, thank you. We appreciate your enthusiasm, and in just 6 months, you've accomplished quite a bit. You've been busy, obviously.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, it's been very busy. It's kind of like drinking out of a fire hose, just getting straight to it, hitting the ground running. But there's a lot of work ahead. It's going to take a lot of community support to get things done. But we've seen some of that support so far, at least early on. So I've been very thankful for that.
We have some questions coming from those who are listening. And the first one's coming from Robin. And Robin is asking if you could help her and other people understand AMI and what it means and how it applies to town housing.
Sure. So AMI is the average median income. It's a metric used to kind of gauge what are some of the average incomes of an area. So if you have, and it's kind of complex, but typically lower incomes will be considered 60% and lower AMI. So these are individuals that make, let's say, it depends on the area that you're in. These are individuals that may make anywhere from, depending on how many are in the household as well, but from 30,000 to 50,000, really depending on how many individuals are in the household. But it's essentially a metric to kind of gauge what the income levels are within your region. So how does that relate towards housing? So let's say, for instance, you have someone that is making $100,000, but it's a three-person household. That person will fit inside a certain bracket, and therefore, by that bracket, you'll be able to determine how much they can afford in regards to housing. Typically, affordability is 30% of your income should be used towards housing. And the AMI, meaning the range in which that income falls under, could be used to kind of gauge what's affordable for that individual or that household. Hopefully that helped.
All right, thank you. Another question is coming in from James, and James is asking if you envision the town taking on public-private partnerships to convert unused office space into housing.
Excellent question. So currently we have a commercial conversion incentive as part of our LMO. And yes, we are looking for public-private partnerships to possibly retrofit unutilized or underutilized commercial spaces into workforce housing. Now, it's only in particular areas. So I could share that incentive map with Haley to share with the group. But in particular districts on the island, yes, we are looking to build those public-private partnerships to convert commercial space into residential space.
All right, thank you. Our next question is coming from Julie, and Julie is asking how you measure success in the sewer connections program.
Wow, that's an excellent question. It's really hard to gauge success. I would say that just like any program, connecting with individuals that may not have been aware of the program, really trying to stabilize communities that may not have had that service. But as many folks as we're helping, there's still folks that are in need of that service. So it's really hard to gauge success, but I would say that, each year we're increasing the number of households that are utilizing the service, that are connected to our sewer system. I think that's the best way that we can gauge success.
All right, thank you, Quincy. Another question coming from Ben, and Ben is asking about if you've talked to local businesses on what their workforce housing needs particularly are.
Excellent question. So working with the Housing Action Committee, one of our tasks was to conduct a survey of not only employees, but employers as well to kind of gauge what the need is. We want to ensure that we have a very focused approach in regards to assisting exactly what employers and employees need. So yes, that is something that we're hoping to do in the future through the Housing Action Committee, is to engage local employers to kind of see what the need is.
You're generating some questions today. This is great.
I see.
Next question is coming from Tony, and okay. Tony is asking, when will the North Point project break ground, and how much has been spent on it year to date?
Well, can't really speak too much about that publicly. I would say that I think the hope was always that within the next couple of years, breaking ground will be able to happen in regards to North Point. But since we're still within the development agreement negotiation process, I'm not able to speak too much about that publicly.
Okay, Next question's coming from Ryan. And Ryan is asking, how does the town balance the need of open space with the need for workforce housing?
Wow, that's a great question as well. As you know, the island is really unique and open space is really important in regards to the fabric of the island. And it's a hard balance. I think, I'll have to come back to you on that. That's an excellent question. How do we balance that out? I'm not quite sure. I think we're really trying to go through that process now, really trying to think how do we balance the need for housing and the need to keep the aesthetic of the island as it is.
Quincy, we'll come back to you on that one after you've got a few more months under your belt. How about that?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, another question is coming from Kristen, and she's asking if the workforce housing will be available for rent.
Yes, in regards to North Point, the thought was that these would be rental units. So yes, but we still need to find a way to build a component towards a pathway to home ownership. So that's something that we're also trying to think through.
Another question coming from Courtney, and Courtney is, first of all, a statement that I am married to a firefighter, so I certainly understand the struggle for our essential workers to afford to live here. But what are we doing to better support the lower income households who are being priced out of rentals?
Yeah, excellent question. So I know we have a new director in regards to the Housing Authority, and that's someone that I'm going to work with in regards to what that looks like for the island and some of the affordable housing that we have on the island. But I would say that the public-private partnership with Habitat, so home ownership for those that are low income is certainly a partnership that we're looking to explore more and that we're really excited about in regards to working with individuals that are low income.
Quincy, that's going to do it for us today. We appreciate the time that you've given us. We appreciate what you're doing here locally and look forward to continuing and partnering with you for the greater good.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, our next speaker may be new to the dais at Bluffton Town Hall, but she's certainly not new to Bluffton. Bluffton Town Councilwoman Emily Burden was born and raised in Bluffton, attended local schools, and is a graduate of the College of Charleston. She's a successful small business owner, previously a winner of the Chamber Small Business of the Year Award. I'd like to get that one in, so that's always a great award. And she and her sister own Gigi's in downtown Bluffton. So we're excited to have her with us today. She and her husband have 4 children, and they all attend the Heritage Academy. So Emily, welcome. Obviously, you've got a lot going on from a family, business, and now as an elected town council person.
Yes, lots going on. I thought, things were getting a little too quiet for me. So I thought I would, put my name in the ring and try to help serve our town. And so I ran in our special election to fill the remaining 2 years of our new mayor's seat. So that special election was in February and I was sworn in March. And I'm just so thankful to be a part of it. I love our town. That's why I wanted to do this. I really was not looking for anything to do. I do have 4 children. They all are, they're at Christian Academy in Bluffton now, but and I had this small business that my sister and I opened almost 16 years ago. But I love our town and I wanted to be a part of it to help protect and preserve it for the future generations. So there's a lot of exciting things going on. Like Quincy said, I had been drinking out of a fire hose since I was sworn in a few months ago, just trying to meet with as many people as I can to learn about all the different things going on, all the good stuff, the issues. And so it's been a very busy few months, but all really good things. I feel like I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm thankful for it. My other council members have been great to work with, our town manager and our police chief and all the staff at the town. I really am so impressed with them and how much they truly do care about our town, and also just how much that they listen to our residents and their concerns. I did not know that before this, but they really do care. I mean, I knew they cared, but not how much they really listened when people email or when they call or when they come speak at our town council meetings. Like, they really try to address whatever issues are brought up. So like I said, there's lots of things happening in Bluffton. A lot of them revolve around different capital improvement projects that we have going on. Last week, we broke ground on 2 exciting things. One was our New River Linear Trail. It's a 3 phases. It's a 3.2-mile trail that is open. It's a dirt trail, lots of nature. I've heard that there's lots of alligators and snakes. It goes over the New River. And so it's a beautiful trail. And we're going to work on some lighting and some restrooms, cameras for safety, and some parking things. So that was a very exciting groundbreaking last week. We also had a groundbreaking for the town's second affordable housing project. That's going to consist of 12 townhomes off of May River Road. We are joining with Workforce State of Mind. And so the town has been a part of that. And I think that is also exciting. Like Quincy said, the workforce affordable housing it's a tough one that we're all working on towards solutions. And I know 12 units is not going to solve the problem, but it certainly is going to solve the problem for the 12 families that end up living there. So I think that is exciting. We are going to open up Bluffton's new Welcome Center, which is going to be on our beautiful park, the Wright Family Park down by the river. The Squire Pope Carriage House has been under renovations for a while now. And I don't know if any of y'all have walked down there, but it is absolutely gorgeous what they've done with it. And preserving the history of that building. It's very special. And so that's supposed to be opening at the beginning of next year. We are going to, we're in the process of doing a splash pad at another one of our parks, Oscar Fraser Park, another one downtown, which I think is great just to have somewhere like y'all do on Hilton Head, but somewhere in Bluffton where the kids can just ride their bikes or walk and go cool off in the summer months. So waiting on a few more permits on that, but hopefully all of that will get going and finished this summer. We also, the town recently bought just about 16 acres at the corner of Bluffton Parkway and Buck Island Road, in which we will start talking through designs and land planning for another park, which I think is crucial for that Buck Island, Simmonsville neighborhood, a place for those kids and to go and to be able to play and just be kids. And then we're still working on our New River Barn Park. First phase, the park and the restroom should be open next year. And then the actual barn, which is a beautiful, beautiful building. There'll be event space there. Weddings is what they foresee, but that should be in 2026. We also just finished our renovations at the Oyster Factory Park down near the Oyster Factory on the river. And that is beautiful. A lot of hardscapes, just makes it a little bit more usable where your feet aren't just in the dirt all the time. So I think it turned out great. I'm excited about that one. And then lots of fun stuff this summer. I think our town, the leaders and staff are all really committed in our community. So we have a movie series over the summer at different parks throughout the town. We have a couple children's events with, water slides and all of that at town parks. We also have a big Independence Day celebration that will be held on June 30th with kickoff of a 5K that morning, and then different events throughout the day, ending with fireworks on the river over at the Oyster Factory Park that night. And so, there's just been a lot over the past few months, but all very, very exciting. Last week, I also attended the first town hall that I've been to since being sworn in out at one of our gated communities, the Haven, and we had almost 100 residents there, and it was such a great opportunity for them to hear from the town. I think it answered a lot of questions about why things are done the way that they are. I look forward to more town halls in our different neighborhoods over the next couple of years as well. So I will open it up to answer any questions that I can.
All right, thank you. You've obviously been a quick study too, and well-versed, and you've obviously hit the ground running.
Yes, absolutely. And I love it. As many people as I can meet with, the better. And like I said, I just care about this town, and I really do care about the future of it and just protecting and preserving as much of our history as we can.
All right, we have a question coming from Rodney, and it's along those lines. And Rodney is asking about what was some of the couple of the biggest things you've learned while you've been out meeting with so many different community members, whether during the election process or while you've been serving on council.
I would say it was very consistent that most people during the campaign and since being on council, Bluffton has grown so quickly. And so just trying to manage our growth and development, which is definitely my top priority. I hope to see more green space preserved, and just being smart with our development moving forward. Now, what a lot of people hopefully realize, but they might not, so I want to state it, is 92% of town of Bluffton is actually under development agreements that cannot be altered unless we possibly buy land from the owner or the developer requests a change. But I think just trying to find some solutions to slowing down the residential development. And then I would say the other thing I heard the most is just our roads, like how and trying for the infrastructure to catch up, which is a hot topic. The town does not have any direct control over the majority of our roads except for town roads, which a town road has, for the town to be able to own it, has to start and end in the town. So there are lots of roads that do not fall. But for me, I would love to see more police officers on the roads to just try to help with reckless driving, speeding, things like that, because I think that could help with our safety on the roadways.
All right, thank you. The next question is coming from Mike. And Mike is, first of all, saying the Bluffton state of mind is worth preserving. How do you see that happening in the next 5 to 10 years?
I completely agree. I think our Bluffton state of mind is why so many people moved here. It's why I wanted to stay here and live here and raise, why my husband and I, he's from Hilton Head, and so he's well acquainted with the area too, but we wanted to raise our children and plan on never leaving. So I think with the growth and managing that, I think is a huge, huge key of that. And then working with the different, whether it be our state representatives and county on roadways, working with school district on schools, some of the other major issues that the town, like I said, does not have direct control over, but it's important working with the people that can make decisions on that, and creating and maintaining those relationships to come up with solutions.
All right, Jessica is asking, what did you get to experience growing up in Bluffton? And that also the second part of that, that you'd want your children to experience.
That's my favorite. That's probably my favorite question. Growing up in Bluffton, I mean, I definitely took advantage of it. I didn't realize how special it was. Bluffton back then, it was so small. We did have an elementary school when I grew up, but then we had to go to Hilton Head for middle school and high school. And so we had one grocery store right in the middle of town, where the Dollar General is now a handful of restaurants, one of Squat and Gobble, which is thankfully still there. But I would say growing up, some of my favorite things, it was just a slow way of life. It was just slow living. And definitely favorite memories are just being on the river and crabbing, shrimping, fishing, just jumping in with a tube and other people, and you would just float with the tide until it changed directions, and then it would take you right on back home. Swimming over to the sandbar, like so many things. And I'm going to be honest, that's exactly what my children are doing now. I'm out of town for work at the moment, so I'm in a hotel room, but I was tracking my kids on my Live 360 yesterday, and they are just my boys, who are both one in high school and one in middle school. They were just out in the boat, shrimping, crabbing, jumping in the river, just still enjoying that way of life. Now, it's a little bit harder on the weekends because the river is definitely busy. You can't just go out there anymore. And so I hope all boaters are just being smart with that, so that the river stays safe as well. But I think so much of what I did growing up, if we can change our mindset and our priorities as a family and as a community, like, we can still do so much of it.
That just gave me some chills listening to the
I
great
almost have
day
tears in my eyes.
yeah. Another question coming to you is from Dale, and Dale is asking if there are any plans to buy land to protect that land from development.
Would say, we did, like I said, we recently bought that almost 16 acres. And I would say that that is definitely a priority of council, is to continue to look at other opportunities to take developments and RDUs, residential dwelling units, off the books, and hopefully protect some of that land.
All right, I know the answer to this, but maybe you can expand on it before I ask the question. That it's coming from Rachel, and Rachel is asking if you're concerned about the impact of growth and development will have on the May River.
Yes, I think that's been a topic of concern for a number of years now, something that they've been working towards. My husband, years ago, maybe 10 years ago, if I'm guessing correctly, was on our watershed committee. I know that committee has worked hard over the years to do what they can to protect our river. A few initiatives, that the town has in the middle of continuing to work on are getting everyone in the town on sewer and office septic tanks. That is continuing to happen. We have a couple more phases left, but I know I was one of those homes. We have an old historic home, and we've been on septic, and we just, as of last week, got connected to sewer. And so I think that is huge. The town is also working with Beaufort County and the Beaufort Jasper Water Sewer and Authority to out in the Stony Creek area off of 46, which is not town limits, but we are still working with them to get that area, because that is probably one of the biggest areas where septic tank issues affect our water quality. And then I'm a big believer in just, the more impermeable surfaces that we have, the more stormwater drains. And so just trying to do what we can to on these different neighborhoods and things like that, to really try to encourage to keep more permeable surfaces so the water drains into the ground. But I definitely, protecting the May River and therefore, the shrimp, the crabs, the fish, all of that is a huge priority for our council.
Emily, thank you. You're
Thank you.
Obviously a ton of things going on, and being a business owner, 4 children at the Christian Academy, a husband, a family, and then putting yourself out and choosing to serve on Bluffton Town Council. Thank you for that commitment and your involvement. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all having me on here. I appreciate everyone and their questions. Please, anybody, feel free to reach out to me anytime. My email is eburden@townofbluffton.com. But, I love this town and our community too much not to. So I just had to do what I could to help. So I appreciate y'all having me on here today.
All right. Thank you, and have a good business trip.
Thank you. I'm headed home right after this. Cannot wait to get back.
Oh, good. All right. Safe travels. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Emily Burden from Bluffton Town Council. Now we're going to transition and talk about something that's certainly a concern for us all, and that's safe drinking water. And drinking water sometimes is something we all take for granted. A number of coastal communities deal with the issue of saltwater intrusion in their local wells. And here to tell us about that is our good friend, Pete Nardi, and he's going to talk about some of those challenges.
Bill, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Yep. Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. A lot going on Hilton Head related to saltwater intrusion, related to our public drinking water supply. Some pretty exciting projects I wanted to talk to you about this morning. The Hilton Head PSD, our utility that serves the North and Mid-Island areas. We serve starting with unincorporated Beaufort County, Windmill Harbor, and then we stop at around the Shelter Cove area. Our utility recently the recipient of a $10 million grant from the state of South Carolina. The state calls it the South Carolina Infrastructure Investment Program, or SKIP, and it's American Rescue Plan Act monies. We're doing 2 really interesting projects with it, and they're going to require significant local leverage to get them achieved also. But the first is the expansion of the reverse osmosis drinking water treatment facility that is here on the north end. It's on Jenkins Island. Right now, that facility is capable of treating about 4 million gallons a day. The source is brackish groundwater, and we are going to use this grant program to expand it to 6 million gallons a day drinking water capacity, treatment capacity. So to do that, it's work inside of the plant, additional pumps, additional filters. It's also the construction of a fourth production well down into the brackish part of the aquifer, about 600 feet deep, that will feed the plant, will give us the capacity. So got a great partner in the town of Hilton Head Island, helping us with location of where that well is going to be. They're also helping us, the town is assisting the PSD with the other key project we're doing as part of this grant program, which is to build a second aquifer storage and recovery well, ASR for short. ASR is a program where we actually take treated drinking water during the winter months when the demand is a little bit lower. We take it, and using this well, we store it down in the brackish aquifer, again, about 600 feet deep. We make a bubble down there of treated drinking water. And then when our spring and summer rolls around and it's time to, meet the peak demands, we are withdrawing that treated water from that same well, retreating and putting it out in the distribution system. So it's not in and of itself a source of water, but it's an incredible supply technique. We have one ASR well right now. It's located on Royal James in Hilton Head Plantation. Using these wells, we can store about 260 million gallons of treated drinking water underground in the brackish aquifer. So, for comparison purposes, if you drive around the island and you see one of these concrete ground storage tanks, like you see off Gardner Drive, for example, that's only holding about 2 million gallons of treated drinking water. So this ASR program is an incredible, it's an incredible supply technique, incredible asset for the community. By building two, we will actually be able to bracket, if you will, our service area with these two large-scale supplies. Really critical, not just for meeting these peak demands that we experience spring and summer, but also for things like disaster recovery, because it's allowing us to have such an incredible amount of supply on hand to then use to repressurize the drinking water treatment system should we get knocked down as a result of something like a hurricane. So it's got a great, disaster resiliency aspect to it. But these are really big projects we're after right now. A lot of other exciting things going on, I think, with water related to our state, related to fighting saltwater intrusion. The Chamber's own Tom Hens and I were just up in Columbia just this past week, talking with our state officials, talking with the Department of Health and Environmental Control about expanding the recycled water program throughout the state of South Carolina. And Bill, as you know, Hilton Head is a leader in recycled water. It's how we've been irrigating golf courses here on the island, going back to the dawn of sea pines. So, we're taking that municipal wastewater that you can treat in our municipal wastewater plants, and we're treating it right now to basically a near drinking water standard. We're using it to irrigate golf with. We're using it to put into interior wetland habitats here on the island to maintain those habitats, keep them as flora and fauna, habitats here. But recycled water has a lot of other implications. And something that is done elsewhere in the country is taking recycled water and using it to do something like fight saltwater intrusion. So much of what we've had to do here on the island to develop these other alternative water supplies, like reverse osmosis treatment of brackish groundwater, has really been in response to saltwater intrusion in what had been our fresh groundwater, the fresh part of the groundwater aquifer. Well, recycled water is actually a program that could be used to fight saltwater intrusion. Treat it to a very, very high level, a drinking water standard, and look at injecting it underground and trying to stem the tide of saltwater intrusion, maybe possibly trying to freshen wells that we've lost. This has been done elsewhere in the country for quite a long time. So, the technology's there. It's all about building the regulatory framework. It's all about building the public support, but hopefully, being innovative. And we're really excited that the state of South Carolina, our state officials and the regulatory community, they're very, very interested in these kinds of programs and projects. So it's great to have a partner like Tom Hens in the chamber looking at something like this from public policy standpoint. Recycled water has implications for industry here in our state, giving them a source of water. It has implications for energy production, for agriculture. They're using it in Florida on agriculture and things like that. So I'm really excited personally about the future of that here for our state, as much as all these great drinking water supply projects we're doing. So it's an exciting, Hilton has an exciting place to be in terms of working on water. We're a leader in it. And really our state is looking at us and for some of the guidance, for some of the track record to show what can be done. We had a group, I'm a member of something called the Lower Savannah Salkehatchie River Basin Council. It's part of the state water plan effort here. And we had the council visit Hilton Head recently, take a field trip. And one of the reps who comes from North Augusta said, here on Hilton Head, you all really are masters of all these water dynamics, masters of water supply, and looking at all these different alternatives. So I'm really proud here on the island. We set a really good example. We're going to keep doing it and hopefully, kind of keep influencing our state as well.
Pete, thank you. Thank you very much. Am I correct that this will be your 20th year at Hilton Head PSD?
You're dating me. Yep, this is my 20th year overall at the PSD. Been privileged to be the general manager since 2015. Great group of men and women that comprise these utilities. Your field technicians who are out there every day. These distributed systems require a lot of maintenance. So it starts with your field technicians, your customer service reps on the phone. I think we've got some of the friendliest around when you call Hilton at PSD. We've got a great board of commissioners, elected board of commissioners. They're elected on your general election cycle. So a lot of accountability, a lot of responsibility to the community. You've got the local rate setting authority in your hands, the local tax setting authority when it comes to water and wastewater. So it's a great setup here. It's a really I think it's really progressive and obviously it's a critical setup we have.
All right, thank you. Before we get to some questions from the audience, just one other thing I'd like for you to talk about. I know that you're the president of Water Use South Carolina, which is I believe the only trade association in the country that's focusing on that. And as the president, just speak for that for a moment, and then we'll get into some audience questions.
Yep. So what we're doing with that water reuse is Water Reuse Association is the national association, and it is the only one related just to recycled water here in our country, in North America. And we recently came together, a group of utilities from around the state of South Carolina, to start our own state chapter of it. So you've got Mount Pleasant, you've got Greenville, you've got Charleston area, Hilton Head, of course, Horry County, those areas are all involved in it. And, it was surprising to me to learn that what we do here with recycled water, Gulf, wetlands, it is really about the only things being done with it in our state. And so, there's lots of different needs that our communities are having. Some of it is for water supply. They're interested in taking recycled water all the way to where it could become a drinking water. Some are interested in these programs and these alternatives because they're facing discharge issues. They need alternatives to where they're currently discharging the treated wastewater. So how can it be commoditized? How can it be recycled and better used? So that's what we're working on with water reuse. Really, really fortunate to have somebody like Tom Hens from the chamber taking part in it. And he's helping us actually elevate this to the South Carolina chamber. They've got an environmental committee. They've got an interest in how we help industry and business with these kinds of things in our state. So it's really exciting. I'm really, really proud to be involved in that. I'm definitely a drinking water guy, but I think as much as anything, I'm kind of a recycled water guy. That's some of where I have a lot of my personal passion.
All right, thank you. Lewis is our question coming in here, and Lewis is asking, is there any water connection to off-island locations, or is Hilton Head Island totally self-serving for drinking water?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the island has a connection to the large utility on the mainland, Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority, and we are a wholesale customer of the Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority. We're purchasing their treated drinking water through that pipeline. It's a large-scale pipeline. It's buried underneath the Intracoastal Waterway. It gets about 72 feet deep under the waterway. It's actually going to have to be relocated as part of the US 278 corridor project when they're redoing the bridges to Hilton Head. One of the first big public works projects that will have to occur is the relocation of that buried drinking water transmission pipeline. So that is a key, it's a key source for us. It's a key part of our supply. The majority of Hilton Head supply comes from our own groundwater. So like for Hilton Head PSD, we're only getting about 20% of our drinking water from that mainland pipeline. But obviously, we're a barrier island. That connection is critical for us. We don't ever want to give it up. As wholesale rates go, they are increasing. We're seeing some fairly significant rate increases with that wholesale water. That's yet another kind of reason to keep developing our own groundwater, keep our groundwater future in our own hands. There's an economic aspect of it too. But that's a great question.
All right, Pete. Olivia is asking if it's true that some bottled water we buy is simply municipal water that is bottled.
That is true. Yes. Some of your really large scale bottled waters, that are, the products of, like, say, PepsiCo or Coca-Cola. That is what they're doing. They're taking already treated municipal drinking water, and they're running it through reverse osmosis treatment, membrane treatment using reverse osmosis technique. So the same thing that we're doing here on Hilton Head to produce the drinking water, that's in our homes, in our taps and things like that. It's a precious resource here on the island. We see a lot of drinking water demand for residential landscape irrigation. So, we do have the 2-day-a-week irrigation ordinance here. We do ask everybody to be mindful of that. Water-wise, it is the treated drinking water that we're using. But yep, you get that with a lot of bottled waters. You're doing treated municipal drinking water.
Pete, you were ahead of the game. You just addressed one of our next questions coming from Jean Marie. The second part of her question, though, regarding sprinklers and irrigation, is asking if there are any consequences for those who choose not to follow the rules.
So it is a municipal ordinance. It's an ordinance of the town of Hilton Head Island. It does have some code enforcement aspect to it. A difficult code to enforce, no question, because you're talking about thousands and thousands of these systems that are out there. The way in which our utility talks about it is as, public outreach. Be mindful that it is only 2 days a week at all times. It's not a drought situation. That is our all the time ordinance. A key part of the ordinance too is that you must have a working rain sensor on your irrigation system. And I can attest that those working rain sensors are out there. When we get a rain event here on Hilton Head in our service area, we really see the demand for the drinking water plummet. And that is related to those rain sensors kicking on. So I do think customers are being mindful of that. They're doing a good job of making sure those rain sensors are active.
All right, lots of good questions continue to come in. So we appreciate you answering them. Next question is coming from Adrian, and Adrian is asking if we have to evacuate, should we turn off the water to our house?
That's a great question. And the answer to that is yes. We do ask owners to have a working shut-off valve on your side of the meter. The ideal situation is to have that shut-off valve in a box right after your meter box. Have yourself a wheel valve, a kind of a valve like you'd almost see like shutting off a swimming pool type thing, and shut off the supply to your house using that. Some folks will see that they've got maybe a shut off in the garage. That's also going to be good for your interior. But again, like if you got an irrigation system, you're going to want something that's on that lateral feeding your property, so you can just shut it off right there after the meter. But that's a great question. And we're glad. If you're wondering if you have a shut off, you can call the PSD, contact all the PSDs, and we'll come out and see if you've got one or not. And that'll key into whether or not it's time to go get a plumber and get yourself one. But they're a tremendous tool to have.
All right, thank you for that. Mike is asking, approximately what % of water used in firefighting is recycled water?
Yeah, so our PSD does not have any recycled water fire hydrants in our service area. So firefighting purposes, other than when firefighting's using foam and things like that, but it's all from the water distribution system, the tap water distribution system.
All right, another question from Lewis, and Lewis is asking, does Jasper County Bluffton water supply sufficient for all the growth that is going on today? And then how many years out do you see that our water supply is secure?
So, it's difficult for me to speak to what they're seeing out there. I can tell you that they are definitely in the throes of capacity projects to meet the new capacities that they're experiencing on the mainland, Jasper County, especially Hardyville area and things like that. So what that supply represents to Hilton Head, for us right now, is sufficient. We own capacity in that system, and it does meet our needs because of the way in which we are really treating and relying upon our own groundwater over here. That's a decision that's been made by the island to have that sufficiency, have that resiliency in our own resource right here. Reverse osmosis treatment is the real key. So far this year, our utility, we've sourced about 94% of our drinking water from our reverse osmosis plant. And then that's where that aquifer storage program comes into play too, being able to store these large scale supplies, so that we need it to meet our peak demands, need it to meet any kind of growth that we're seeing. Our part of the island that we're serving, we do see some potential for growth. There's still some raw land out there where we're seeing some projects pop up, and it does represent some growth. A lot of new developments. I don't think you're necessarily going to see so much of like that irrigation demand and things like that. And of course, water efficient fixtures are everywhere now in our country, so that's kind of helping us too. We don't have like an industrial, demand on us for water. It's really the big demand is our own, residential irrigation, things like that. That's why talking about that is so critical in our community.
All right, Pete, we have time for one more question, and that's coming from Paul. And Paul is asking if you can explain recycled water, and does this become drinking water, or is it just for golf courses?
Great question. So as it stands right now, right, it's just for golf courses. And the other key thing is golf doesn't always need it, right? So we have the ability to discharge it into these pre-existing wetlands. Our big one is called the Whooping Crane Pond Conservancy. It's located in Hilton Head Plantation. It's a beautiful natural area, and it is nourished with the recycled water. We have one at Cypress in Hilton Head Plantation, and then 2 are in Palmetto Hall. So that's the only other thing that's being done with it here on the island, right? We're treating the municipal wastewater. It's treated to like a near drinking water standard, and then it's just used to irrigate golf with, or golf doesn't need it, it's going into the wetlands. So these other things I'm talking about are sort of these ideas of future uses of recycled water. Incredible treatment technologies are out there, and these different uses are something that states, communities are going to want to explore because they can make a lot of environmental sense, they can make a lot of public sense, economic sense.
Pete, thank you for coming on with us today. Congratulations on your $10 million grant. That's huge, and also on your 20-year work anniversary there at Hilton Head PSD.
Appreciate it, Bill. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you. 2 other work anniversaries I want to quickly mention before we adjourn today. And I want to give a shout out this week to Connie Kilmark. Connie's been with us at the chamber here for the last 34 years, and this week she's celebrating that work anniversary. And then also to Kathy Winnings here at the Chamber. Kathy's been with us 22 years this week, and wanted to give each of them a shout out for their loyalty and dedication. To each of you, have a great rest of your week. Be safe, and we look forward to our next Power Hour with you. Thanks. Have a great day.